The United States devolved into civil war from 1861 to 1865, supposedly over states' rights, but that really just translated to whether or not you could only own slaves. And oh, so fortunately for us, the war ended and we were freed, but it was not long after that the white man began to scheme on how to return us into servitude. According to the NAACP, there are currently 3 million people in jail and prison today. PrisonPolicy.com reports that 1 out of every 5 people in the whole world have been in prison in the United States. Over 77 million people in the United States have either been in jail or prison. The end of the Civil War did not mark the end of slavery. It simply marked a transition, a transformation into a cyclical, capitalistic, predatory, community-destroying tool of oppression, which is employed against minorities by the US government to maintain white supremacy. And so we want to understand what the prison industrial complex is. Defined by critical action, the prison industrial complex is the overlapping interests of government and industry that use surveillance, policing, and imprisonment as solutions to economic, social, and political problems. What we have understood from the prison industrial complex is that it is comprised of 3 main factors: white supremacy, capitalism, and predatory policy. And it's extremely complex, and all of these factors combine together to create the prison industrial complex as is known today. So what is white supremacy? White supremacy, defined by the Atlantic, is a political, economic, and cultural system in which whites overwhelmingly control power and material resources. They have conscious and unconscious ideas of white superiority and entitlement, which are widespread among them, and believe in relationships of white dominance and non-white subordination, which are reenacted daily and felt daily by minorities in both institutions and social settings. And so what we understand from this is that all formal institutions, whether they're social, political, or economic, so that's you going to a party, you voting, and your livelihood, big things. All of those are formally built to support white supremacy. Capitalism and incarceration. Capitalism drives everything within the United States. All aspects of life, from warfare to religion, have been monetized to create profit to the highest degree. And this is exemplified by both sides, both parties. Bush invaded Iraq for oil, and Obama bailed out the banking and the car industries. According to the Equal Justice Initiative, mass incarceration costs states and federal governments currently $182 billion each year. That's a lot of pressure on the American taxpayer. In 2012, it was at 81 billion. And so in 8 years, it has gone up 100,000. That is a number we cannot continue to support. Prisons have been overpopulated, and since 1970, the population has increased by 700%, which is why these numbers are being driven up. There are 2 types of prisons that are relevant to this: private and public. And private prisons are the real issue because they are the driver. They are only really profitable when full, and so they pressure law enforcement and the government to make sure that they stay full. How do they do so? Through the use of predatory policies. And so according to Statista, in 1865, there were about 3.9 million slaves freed. Yet today there are 6 million African-American felons, which means there are more African-Americans who are disenfranchised in the United States today than there has ever been before. These predatory policies have been designed to hold us back and to be stricter and harsher on minorities. The bias is clear. This predatory policy can be illustrated through the war on drugs. Crack was known as a black and minority drug. Therefore, the minimum sentence for it was higher than that of cocaine, which technically is really just the same substance. But because white people use cocaine and black people use crack, crack was punished worse. minimum sentencing in itself is a perfect example of what's wrong with the justice system. The NAACP says that 52% of prisoners in jail are drug offenders. And so to generate change, we need an entire redesign of the system. We need to change court times, cash bail, predatory minimum sentencing, and all of these policies like this that have been established to support white supremacy. It is obvious. We need to reestablish how we view crime and punishment. There's no reason to imprison someone for drug use. If they have an addiction, send them to rehab, not prison. There's no reason to imprison a Black man for selling a gram of marijuana in New York while a white man makes $1 billion off of it every year. How government applies policies to people of different races within the United States is evident. And until we thoroughly root out these biases and these racisms, we must and will continue to struggle in this system. The most important thing you can do is vote. The whole goal of the prison industrial complex is to disenfranchise your vote. As I previously said, there are 6 million Americans currently disenfranchised in the United States. That's 6 million votes, 6 million African-American votes that could have made a huge difference in states like Ohio or Florida or even Texas. The importance of these voting ability and your ability to engage with the government, that is what makes you special and makes you important in the United States. When we have lost that as felons and when felons lose that, it is our duty to make sure that they have a voice still.